Excel is not a database. It depends on how you define it, really. But while I like the sentiment expressed here, and I share in the frustration whoever created this, I'm going to assume it's not Matt Groening, whatever how you say his name. But yeah, that's just a side note. I saw The Simpsons for the first time when they were on Tracy Ullman's show. So even though I liked them for a long time, it's kind of tiring. But anyway, it's a whole other thing. So Excel's not a database. So what this video is for to help guide you through the first, not the first lesson, but I guess it's the first assignment. Never fails, the dogs start barking when I make these videos. Anyway, so it's this exercise here. So why does this exercise exist if Excel's not a database? And I didn't actually create this exercise, but I do like it, so we're going to keep it. I think one thing that's good about this exercise is that a lot of people have experience with Excel already. So if you haven't, you'll learn a little bit about Excel and spreadsheets. And if you do know Excel, maybe you know Excel way past what this covers. You know, this is kind of fairly simple. But it's just to get you reacquainted with or acquainted with Excel and spreadsheets in general. So why do we have this exercise? I think one good reason is, probably the best reason, is that you can see how spreadsheets are used, kind of things they do, and then compare it to what you learn for the rest of the semester. So this sentiment, Excel's not a database, I do agree. I have been in a situation where I worked somewhere they had a database actually for some of the important stuff, but then a lot of the other tasks that they did, they would use Excel sheets to organize the data for it. And I'm like, why not just make a database? Now, that one answer to that is databases are kind of, it's a steeper it's more effort, I guess, to create one correctly than just to slap an Excel sheet to get together. And there are, you know, perfectly valid reasons to use Excel sheets where you could use a database, depending on like how long this data is going to be around, how much you're going to use it, that sort of thing. If it's for like a one-off project for a couple of weeks, then I can see just use Excel, you know, whatever, if it's easier for you to organize the data. So getting back to this point, Excel's not a database. It depends on how you define it. A database is a base of data, so it's something that organizes data in a certain ways, gives structure to data. So Excel does that. I mean, the most common thing that most of us would have done if we've never done anything else with Excel would be making a monthly budget or that sort of thing. So the data in that would be something like, you spent this much on housing, you spent this much on, so that would be a piece of data, right? That would be a fact. You spent $100 on rent for that month, for a certain month. That's a piece of data. And then, you know, for groceries or eating out or entertainment, whatever, those are all pieces of data. You put all that together, and that gives you information about your budget. So I'll probably make another like a lecture video where we start off talking about the difference between data and information, but just to do it really quickly here, and I'll elaborate on it more later. Data is a fact. It's a given thing about the universe, some aspect of the universe. Information is when you take some data in context and extract something useful to serve a certain purpose out of it. That's what information is, if you want to distinguish between the two. All right, so getting back to this assignment. So I'm just, this used to be an in-class assignment. We kind of did it together, and of course we can't do that now. This is an asynchronous course, so we can't even, like, strictly speaking, we wouldn't even get on Zoom to do it together because that would be synchronous. So I'm just going to go through this step by step, and here's what you do. You find the exercise. It'll be in the checklist somewhere. If I try to navigate to it again, I'll probably get lost, and that'll be embarrassing. So so I feel for you about like navigating. I'm trying to make it as easy as I can for you, though. So there's this Excel exercise. There's a drop box for it under assignments. It should be called Excel exercise. I'm trying to make sure everywhere it's called Excel exercise because there were some different names for it before. And you can see it here, but what you want to do is download it if you haven't got Excel or Office 365 installed yet. You just want to have Excel installed because this is an Excel spreadsheet. And the cool thing about it is if you open it up, you've got the starter spreadsheet here, the stuff up here, and then you have the tasks that you need to do right on the spreadsheet, so you don't have to like refer back and forth. So what I'm going to do is go through this task by task, and I'll probably edit, pause in between. It's been a while since I've done this the last time, so as I figure things out, I'll pause and unpause my recording. But you'll want to follow along. Maybe you pause yourself and like follow the steps, and when you're done, this assignment should be done, and you'll be ready to turn it into the Dropbox. There are a few other things to do this week, but this is like the main thing that you would turn in, and then from after this, we'll start working on Access. So with that being said, first thing you want to do is enable editing, because I think it's set to not be enabled to start with. And then you just want to start on task 1. So I've got my monovision contacts. They're kind of new for me. And well, contact, I only have one. So create a new spreadsheet inside of the workbook by clicking on the plus at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So if I remember right, we're kind of going to make a copy of this original one here, but let's see. I'll do each step one at a time. So clicking plus, the plus that they're talking about is right here. So these are sometimes called workbooks or books in a spreadsheet. And you can have several spreadsheets in one sort of project. All right, we're back after a pause because I don't like putting on a show for the people I live with. That's the basic reason for it. Okay, so we click on the plus sign. That adds a workbook down here. See how it says sheet 1. And if you read the instructions, it says right click on the spreadsheet, name sheet 1 at the bottom of the spreadsheet, and rename the spreadsheet to backup data. So let's go ahead and do that. Rename. It's one of the options there when you right click. Now it's right click, not left click. Left click's the normal way you click. I try to remember that people are at different levels, so sometimes we're not familiar with those terms. So yeah, what I just did right here is right click. That's clicking the right mouse button. So if it doesn't show what I show, then do your other right. The whole matrix joke or whatever. All right, so copy all the data from the original spreadsheet to the new backup spreadsheet, and then it should tell you how to do that. From the original data spreadsheet, click on the triangle, then click on copy. Switch to the new backup data spreadsheet, highlight cell A1 and click on paste. So what it's saying is this triangle right here. It's sort of a right triangle, not what you might expect. So click on that. Copy all the data. So click on the triangle and then click copy. Let's see where that is actually. Click on the triangle, that selects everything. And then hold up. All right, if you ask me, that's kind of like a misleading direction. But anyway, so if you click on this, what this does, this triangle selects everything in the spreadsheet, both the columns and all the on the rows. So that's why we click that. Now, to copy, there's a couple ways you can do it. If you go to home, there's a copy here. What I'll usually do when I have stuff selected, this is probably something most of you know already, but I right click and go to copy. You could also do Control C, as in Control Charlie. But copy, then click on the backup data tab down here, and I'll take you to the other spreadsheet. And this is spreadsheet cell A, column A, row 1. You just want to make sure that's selected, and then you paste. So again, there's different ways you can paste. There's probably a paste up here somewhere. Of course, I wasn't ready for it, but there's copy and paste. Copy. There's paste. So click paste, and that way you have the original data, and then you got the backup. So you probably want to do all your work in the backup. That's where this is going probably. All right. Add a column between quality points earned and degree earned. Label this column GPA. Now, it doesn't tell you how to do this. So let's see how to do it. I don't know if I probably won't pause for this one. I'll just figure it out. So add a column between quality points earned and degree earned. Label this column GPA. Now it says add a column between. It doesn't tell you which sheet to use. So what I just told you is probably wrong. It's called backup data just so you can get back to where if you mess up, you can back it up from here. So I'm going to go with original data is where you do your work. Now add a column between quality points earned and degree earned. So you got to find those two things. Degree earned is here, quality points earned is here. And I forget which column to highlight. I think it might not matter. Just right click on one of them. So select the column. First of all, the way you select the column is click on the letter at the top. That'll select the whole column. And then right click in there, basically on that letter too, or anywhere in the column. And then click insert. And that's the one. So you want to do it, I guess, by default. You could probably go either way somehow, but if you click on the one that's after, it'll insert before. That's what it looks like. So calculate, add a column between quality points earned and label this column GPA. So when it says label this column, it means type up here on this top line. And you see it's already bolded, probably because this whole column has been set to bold already. So that's what that means. Calculate the perpetual students. Add a column, label this column GPA. Calculate the perpetual students GPA. We do this with a formula. Formulas start with the equal sign. All right. So perpetual student. So that's just the first student. Eventually, we're going to do it for all of them. But the way you often do this stuff in Excel is to start with one cell and then extend it over the other ones that are similar. So equal sign. That's how you start a formula, like they said. And then the calculation formula for the GPA is quality points earned over hours attempted. So for the perpetual student, this would be, and then it shows you. That's the part that we needed. But you take, what you do basically to do any calculation is you take the cell that you want to be involved in the calculation, which is in this case E2 is 2. So the quality points earned is 299. That's it. For this student, that's in cell E2. So you just do E2 divided by, what was the other part? Usually hours attempted, usually hours passed. Hours attempted, yeah. So that would be it tells you what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. So C2, sometimes it's easier to do it that way, and it says C2 there. So. And then at this point, you should be able to hit enter, and it'll show you the GPA. Now, at some point, we'll probably, I don't know if we will or not. You can always like round off and that sort of thing in spreadsheets, but we'll see what they ask us to do. Now, copy the GPA formula from perpetual student to each other student. Now, the easiest way to do this, and it may tell you some other way. I'm just going to do this way first, and then you guys can see what it gives you as an instruction. But you want to go to this little corner in the lower right-hand corner of the cell that has the calculation that you want in it. Now, this is the result of the calculation, right? But this is the calculation. Up here, you'll see, actually, if you highlight this formula up here, it shows you what all is involved. So this red thing is over the, or vice versa. The blue thing's over the red thing, and it gives you the answer in this cell. But the easiest way to do it is go to the lower right-hand corner, and it'll be a plus sign. It's kind of hard to see because it's on the intersection of two lines, but if you look closely, it'll be a black plus line sign, not a thick white one, but a little black one. So click that, and then just drag the corner of that box over all the other cells in that column that you want to have that formula. And the cool thing about doing it that way is it doesn't. You have options. So this gets tricky in Excel. Some of you guys are familiar with Excel, know what I'm talking about. But when you do the plus sign, it tries to do tries to derive something from the formula that's going on. One example is if you have 1 in one cell and 2 in the next and 3 in the next, you can highlight like the first 2 or 3 and use that plus sign, and it'll extend it. It'll keep numbering. But if you just have 1 and you do that, it'll just put 1 in every box. So it depends like kind of on the context. But anyway, in this case, it changes the cells that are involved in the calculation in the way that you would see as being the sensible way of doing it, right? In other words, it's not E2 over C2 for every one of these rows. It changes based on which row you're in. So it's the appropriate GPA for that person. All right. As you can see here, as you click on the different rows, you can see these are all the different rows too. Okay, next thing. I haven't had to pause as much as I thought I would, but there's always something tricky that we'll have to figure out at some point here. The calculation formula for GPA is quality points earned over hours attempted for perpetual student. That's how we did that one. Now copy, we did that. Select the entire GPA column. This is the GPA column. So selecting it, I click on the F at the top that's sort of outside the spreadsheet. Then choose format, and then format cells, number, and then show each GPA with 2 decimal points. So it's what I was saying. We're going to format this so it rounds off. So let's see, what does it say? Select, then choose format. Let me see. Let me pause while I find that. Okay, I paused because I wanted to like do it like the long-winded way if there is one. When in doubt, when you're working in Excel, right click, and like a lot of the most common tasks you want to do are right there. I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to show it like the sort of formal way first, but I don't see it. It's got to be one of these things up here with format under it. If you go under, never mind, I'll just do it this way. So if you right click, you'll see format cells is one of your options. So if you look in the instructions, it says format, then format cells. So however this is like a shortcut to what it's talking about. So click on format cells, and then pick number, and then decimal places. As you can see, it's it's like the default, and most people are in 2 decimal places is what is the typical kind of thing. 2 and 3 are, in my opinion, 2 is really good for money, obviously, because we don't do fractions of a cent unless we're at the gas station, I guess. But like in science, typically it's 3 decimal places unless you need really precise measurements, but just for like reports and stuff, 3 decimal places. It's kind of a rule of thumb. It's not a law. So anyway, that's the default. You can see how it rounds everything off. Okay, next step. I need to keep track of which step I'm on somehow. Select the entity. Yeah, we did that. 2 decimal points. Go to cell A11. Choose formulas. Insert function. Choose function. Count A. Now this is tricky in the past, but notice it's not just count. It's count A. Note that the function prompts you for parameters. Choose value 1 equals A2, and then press enter. Now the formula is written in cell A11. So I'm going to pause, set this up, and then show you what to do. Okay, I didn't get very far in the pause because I realized I need to be showing you this stuff too as I do it. So this is cell A11. This is the first cell here. And then choose formulas, insert function. So formulas, luckily, is up here at the top. Click on that, and then click insert function. And then count A is this function right here. And what else does it say? Note that the function prompts you for parameters. Choose value 1 equals A2. So if I click on, yeah, so it does. So value 1, okay, I see, A2. So that's one of the parameters. A2. Make sure I did that right. Okay. And press enter. Formula is written. Okay, let's do that. So there's the count A2. All right, let's see what the next step is. All right, so I see this was kind of a kludge to get started on this formula. What we want is to count up a range. And if I remember, I'm trying to remember what count A means. I think count A counts the even empties or nulls. I'm not sure. I have to like review what count A means opposed to just count. But in any case, the way you do a range here with these cells is A2 dot dot. That symbolizes the range in between 2 things. And then the last cell is A10 in the range. So do that, and you'll see that you should have 9 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's just counting these values, it's not counting. Well, the range is A2 to A10, so that makes sense. So it counts the values, the number of students basically is what it's counting there. And the P numbers, it's you have P numbers yourselves at Pellsipia. Obviously, these ones are fake. But all right, next step. Okay, I had to edit there, but so the next step is to do this, which do here. So we're going to sum up the hours attempted, And the way you do that is you click the cell where the total needs to be. And this is for totals in general, whether you're multiplying things together. Usually you're summing, but maybe you're counting. There's different things you can be doing. There's a million different formulas if you want to look through them. But one of the simplest ones is just sum. Average, that's probably what I'm trying to say. Yes, average is another one. But anyway, we're summing these. So this is the hours attempted across all the students. And it's like the other formula. You type the cell, and then either here or up here. This is kind of like a more it's a view of the cell, but it'll have extra stuff sometimes depending on what you're doing. So either place, just type the equal sign, and then the formula we're doing is sum. And again, you can see there's a bunch of different formulas you have available to you there. And if you're going to sum up a range of values, it's the parentheses first to enclose the range. And the values are going to be from the first value to the last value cell position inclusive. So we want to go from C2, which is 450, to C10, which is 125. So we type those coordinates in a way is one way to think of it. So C2, that's the name of that cell, and then a colon, and then the last cell, which is C10. And then you can either click the check here, or usually you just hit enter in this case, but check the formula, run it, and see if it works. Either way, but you should have 1,480 hours if you add them all up. That's what that means. So that's that one. So find the total numbers. We use the sum formula calculate. Now copy cell C11 to cell E11. So let's just do that. And again, there's probably different ways you can do it, but just I'm going to use, when in doubt, hit right click. So I'm going to copy that cell and then go to E11 and paste it. And what happens there? So I think what they want you to notice, right? I'll let you think about it for a second. What happens? What's the mystery here? What is the mystery here? The thing is, you have options in the paste, but the default paste is what they're asking about. So what happens? It transposes the sum formula to make sense for this column. So it doesn't sum up C2 through C10. It sums up E2 through E10. You see, automatically converted it for you, because this is called what's called in. I'll get off a little tangent here. Like I said, when I was in grad school, I TA'd a class for human-computer interaction, and there's the principles of that. One of them is views of the user for the designer of the interface. The predictor view is you're not predicting what the user does. Well, in a way you are, but you put yourself into the shoes of the user, and then think of what the user would predict would happen if the user did something. So this kind of is a predictor view of the user. If the user is working with a spreadsheet and they have a certain formula like summing or averaging for a column, they would predict that if they tried to make a copy of that formula to another column, or reuse that column work that they did to another column, that it would convert to that column. That's one reasonable prediction that user can make in the context, following the principles of consistency too. That's the thing that lots of different similar applications would do, is the consistency. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to bring up, that question. It does overlap into that. A lot of stuff in IT and programming and computer science, these things overlap, and you can see how the value, when you laterally apply these principles, you get value out of it. Anyway, so that's that one. We're on 12 now, almost done. Now find the average GPA for all the students. Use the average formula. So the average GPA means go here, type equals. Remember, if you spell average out or do AVG, if I remember right, Excel just has the word average spelled out. And then you do what you've been doing. Or you could, let's see, does this work? I'm trying to remember how this, yeah, you could do this. So this is the principle of flexibility. So you should always have many different ways of accomplishing tasks if possible, so that like experienced users can do things faster using shortcuts. This is the whole right click and go to edit and copy and paste with those choices, or just using Control C and Control V. That's principal flexibility. Anyway, one thing is just drawing over starting off the average, and then like highlighting the columns you want to be involved in the average, so you don't even have to like type it out manually, right? You can do it in a more right-brained way is the way I would think of it. Just double check that it did the right ones though when you do something like that. So F10 and F2 looks like it's correct. And if you want to double check, like I don't see the use. I kind of want to do it. I have this urge to double check the math and make sure Excel's doing it correctly. It can't ever hurt, but at the same time, it's kind of like using one calculator to check another one. Like Excel is meant to do. So as long as you've got the right formula, the right function here, and you've got the right things, it should be giving you the right answer. So whatever. You can double check it if you want. Sort the data by year degree earned. First, highlight the entire table, including the headings, but not the totals line. Then use data/sort. Try sorting the table in ascending order and then by descending order. So I'm not an expert at Excel spreadsheets. I'm trying to remember the thing you want to, whenever you're sorting, the thing you want to be careful about is that you're not sorting things that break the structure of the data. So let's say let's say, just take an example one we just did. If you wanted to sort these GPAs from the highest GPA, the highest grade, to the lowest grade. So let's say Mickey Mouse with a 3.07. No, there's a 4.0 here. That's even higher. So Humperdinck, Engelbert Humperdinck would be at the top with 4.0, and then like I guess Mickey would be next, etc. And you know, in reverse. Highest to lowest. What you want to be careful when you sort these is that you don't give in other words, perpetual student, and that's why he has the lowest grade, I guess, because he's just, well, he's not Barney, I guess, is even dumber. I shouldn't say dumber, but he's got the lowest grade. But anyway, you don't want to make it to where perpetual student has a 4.0, because you sort this, but it only sorts this column and doesn't sort everything else with it. So that's what this little exercise is about, that making sure you understand that when you sort spreadsheets, there's probably different ways to sort it that might break things, and you want to make sure you don't break them. So I have to review how to do this myself, so we'll pause real quickly. All right, this is an edit, but I'll double check to make sure I did it right. So the sorting. You want to highlight, I can't remember if I got to this part where I highlighted or not, but the highlight, always make sure you've got the fat white triangle cross, like the Swiss cross in the middle of the Swiss flag, when you're highlighting a bunch of different cells, as opposed to the little cross, the little black cross that's for calculation, transposition, whatever. So I'm highlighting everything but the totals as they asked, right? And then we're going to sort by the year the degree was earned. So you can see I've already done this a little bit, but let's just do it again. Let me do this first. So I'm going to go to sort, click data, go over to the sort where you have the actual, this by default, it'll do whatever the default column is for these two. But for this one, you can get into more details. So let's just do it by P number first, which I think was the original way of doing it, A to Z. So we can get back to where we were at. I think this is at least similar to where we were at before. But let's do what they want, which is degree earned. So click on data and then sort, and then pick year degree earned, not just degree earned. And by default, this is ascending order, A to Z, smallest to largest value. So you'll notice that it goes from 98 to 99. And then it breaks any ties by going to the P number, I believe. So you notice that the highest thing is the things that don't have years, and that just goes back to P number to break the tie. Here it's there's two 98s, so you see the smaller P numbers first, and then there's two 99s and the smaller P numbers first. So it looks like first column is where it goes when it has no other way to figure out how to sort. All right, so and let's do the opposite, largest to smallest. And you can see now it's 99s on top, and these things are the smallest. So they're kind of not sorted, I guess, is another way of thinking. It just sorts the first few things, and then it reverts to the first column for the rest. So it kind of gives you some insight into the behavior of sorting. All right. Cells are referenced with an absolute reference or relative reference. Use Google. So the last thing is just for you to figure out. But I can just tell you in general terms in IT, an absolute reference or an absolute path is like sometimes called a fully qualified path, fully qualified name. There's different the names for it, but it's like if you have no other context, it tells you where to start and every step along the way to the thing. Whereas relative will tell you where something is relative to where you are now. So, for example, a relative path to your next door neighbor would be your next door neighbor. It's next door to where you're at now. Like my next door neighbor, let's say, I could tell you where my next door neighbor is. He's next door to me. It's relative to me. He's across, maybe you live across the street. He's across the street from you. Relative to you, he's across the street. Relative to me, he's next door. But if you want an absolute path, it would be like the name of the person, his address, like 233 Main Street, and then City State, Knoxville, Tennessee, and then 37923, and then the last four if you do 9-digit zip. That's even more absolute. So the definition of absolute, you always have a starting place. So one way of doing it is maybe the 9-digit zip and then going from there. But that's absolute, and relative is relative to something. So it's going to be something like that in Excel. All right, that's for you to look up. If you have any questions, let me know. Just turn this thing in. Go ahead and put the answer, give your answer to this. So when you're done, follow along with this. When you're done, you should have all this stuff, like pretty much whichever way you sorted it is fine, as long as you've got like these sums and averages and everything's in the right place. That's how I'll grade it. But also just put an answer to that relative versus absolute reference at the bottom here that you looked up, and then drop this in the Dropbox, which is, again, you'll save this and then you'll take that XLS sheet. You can it can just be the Excel sheet. And if you look under assignments, there's a couple different links to this to get you to it, but all else fails, just go to Excel exercise and click on that and then upload it. This is not showing you what you'll see. It's showing you how I, as an editor, see it, but I almost have to actually go up and change into I can do that real quick. I do want to show it the way you will see it, so it's not confusing. So go to assignments, and this should be visible. Yeah, click on that, and you'll see add a file. And you can put some comments if you want, if you had some issues with it or whatever. But you would put that .xls, XSLS, whatever it is. You would put that file, the Excel sheet, as a file here and submit before the end of next Monday. So it's Monday now. The end of, I think it's I want to say 25th, but that doesn't seem right. Yeah, it's 25th. Okay. If you have any questions, send me an email and I'll try to answer them for you. Thanks.